Back on the SportsMax Zone for this Tuesday, the 19th of October. Today was the day five-time Olympic gold medalist Elaine Thomspon-Herah was to return to training. She did, but not at the Stephen Francis-led MVP track club. Instead, she has been reported to have worked out at the Michael University with her husband, Darren Herah. Leighton Levy, our resident track and field analyst, interviewed Coach Stephen Francis, as you just saw, and he joins us now to continue this discussion on this massive story. Double L, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you on.
Hey, Lance, how are you doing?
Yeah, how satisfied may I start here with the interview you had with Stephen Francis this morning and the information that he gave you surrounding this story?
Well, the thing is, there was not pretty much that you could expect from Stephen Francis this morning, given that we already had established that Elaine Thompson was leaving. And we heard his reaction in September when he said, he said what he said about people, whispering in people's ears and convincing them that they can do this on their own. So I didn't expect much from him differently. I mean, he said he saw the report this morning in the newspaper saying that she's going to be training independently for the time being. So it wasn't much of a surprise for me, his reaction, how he reacted to that news, that piece of information, and the question that we asked him in relation to that. He was kind of waffled on the financial issue. Of course, I didn't have detail. I can't ask questions on details that I don't have. But he did offer some kind of explanation, as if to suggest that yes, there was a financial issue or a financial element to the reason for her departure. He said he's not aware of that, but then he went on to explain why other athletes leave their respective clubs for opportunities to earn more. That tells me or suggests to me that there was some element of truth to that argument that was being made about one of the reasons for her departure. He did allude to the fact that the relationship between herself and Shelley and Fraser-Pryce was one of the reasons why Shelley left back in 2019. So, maybe he threw a few breadcrumbs there in terms of, revealing that financial concerns were part of her reasons to leave.
What was your take on how acrimonious this breakup has been, talking to him? Because in the Elaine Thomson-Herah press statement last night, she made no reference of the MVP track club, which sometimes is done. Sometimes an athlete leaves a club and they would say thanks to the club that played a part in their success up to that point, but there was nothing from Elaine Thomson-Herah. That struck
me too. The fact that there was no mention of the man who gathered her to the historical performances in two Olympic Games. It does suggest a level of acrimony, as you mentioned. He was rather indifferent this morning, I found, to the idea that Elaine might not be coming back there. You saw the interview, whoever was watching this just a while ago saw that. Stephen Francis doesn't reveal much in terms of, how he might be feeling about a particular situation. So his indifference, again, is not surprising, but it was instructive this last night when we saw that statement from her handlers that there was no mention of the MVP track club or Stephen Francis, given the success that she has had under his charge. So, it's clearly obvious that, this is a situation where the hatchet has not been buried.
Leighton, you gave us perception, of course, of how Stephen Francis dealt with the entire situation, through the interview. But personally, how did you rate the manner in which Elaine handled this? Because, of course, based on what we're seeing, Stephen Francis, he even found out via a newspaper article. So how did you read this? And is this something that you would expect from Elaine Thomson-Herah, seeing that, you've been covering track and field for quite some time?
I think there's an element of clumsiness over the whole of this situation. One, I think Stephen Francis did know. They did inform him via a letter that they would not be returning to the club. So, that aside, however, the idea that she has not even yet set up her full team, given that if you make a decision to leave a club where you found a success, I would think that going into a new season, of course, the background season is going to be for the next 2 or 3 months. The thing is, though, you get the sense that they're still trying to find the right coach for Elaine going forward, because, running 10:54 4 times under 10:7, winning a second Olympic sprint double, 3 gold medals at the Olympic Games, second fastest woman of all time. You don't want to go into the next season with any level of uncertainty about whether or not you'll be able to reproduce performances similar to this year. So I think the whole thing, with the way they approach to their departure from the club was a little bit clumsy. But I don't know who is handling our communication now or handling our public relations. But it wouldn't be the way I would recommend how this unfolded.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned the word uncertainty, and instantly I thought about the fact that Stephen Francis said in most cases the athletes, they come back, and he hopes that this is not the case in the sense that she misses the boat. What did you read into that response when you asked the question?
Well, that response is about coming back was in relation to Khalees Spencer and
Christine Day.
Khalees Spencer and Christine Day. I can't believe this. I got my brain freeze. Yeah, we've seen other athletes go and return to the MVP track club. That was more specific to those two athletes. I don't think he expects Elaine Thompson to return, given the circumstances which we understand and which he left, unless they find a way to come to some kind of understanding, maybe a year or two. Because in real terms, Elaine Thompson is 29 years old. This is probably her last great window these next 4 years. So it's going to be very important for her what happens from this year going forward. But as it relates to her returning, I think a lot would depend on whether or not they'll be able to bury the hatchet and come to some kind of understanding going forward. Depending a lot on what happens this year, especially at the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon, because if she goes there and bombs, then, I don't know, does she return with her tail between her legs, or does she find another coach? I mean, we don't even know who's going to be coaching her right now, because the background season is going on. Her coach and Bert Cameron, as I said previously, and this is not to be denigrating any of these two coaches, but we have never seen their pedigree coaching an athlete of this stature, so we don't know what to expect from them.
Two things, Leighton, from the interview for me. You touched on it at the start. I think that Stephen Francis did more than suggest, like you said. I think he confirmed that there were financial issues which caused the split, because after explaining to you about the 100% of zero, and he went on a detailed explanation after that, he said athletes switch bases, switch teams, switch clubs in pursuit of greater financial reward. But he doesn't think that will be successful in this case. So he went general and then he came direct. I thought it was a direct answer to the question that he told you that, well, he has no answer. He ended up answering the question straight on, dead on, to confirm for me that it was a financial issue that caused the split. That's one. Mm-hmm. The second thing, I think that Francis said it again. He said, look, the window and these performances, and he spoke about regressing from the mean, and he used the greatest of all time, Usain Bolt, to show Bolt regressed from 19.19 and 9.58. Of course, these mean points have never been set by anybody in the history of the sport before. So when Bolt regresses to 9.7s and 9.8 flat, some people have never run 9.8 in their life, and they're trying to beat a man who's already gone 9.5. To make the point that, look, this golden period, it only happens once. No athlete runs 19.19 and then comes back after it around 19.16 and then goes 9.40. It doesn't happen. So It's a massive gamble that an athlete in her position would take to leave these stratospheric highs, thinking that, I know what it is to get this fast. Since I know how to get there, then it stands to reason logical thinking and linear thinking, and I can get faster. I think he's disagreeing with that, and I think that's why he's comfortable that he's not losing out by virtue of her moving on. Now, what say you?
I'm thinking you're on point with that, George, because that was part of the impression I got. But at the same time, as you know, these little nuggets that he leaves in his responses give you the impression that you could go either way. But what you pointed out was what I was alluding to earlier, the specificity of what he said in terms of the window and the opportunity that Elaine Thompson has right now to go on to be even greater than before, if that's even possible. So at 29, was this a good move? Only time will tell. The thing is, when you're moving from a coach who's been proven to be able to do what he has done for you, to right now a situation that seems very uncertain, that's not very promising in terms of looking ahead, in terms of what Elaine Thompson is going to be able to do in the future. We could be completely wrong because she could come out next year and do something extraordinary. But on the basis of what we're seeing right now, you have to have your doubts about whether or not she'll be able to even come close to what she did this past season, given the relative pedigree of the coaches that she's currently working with, unless they're going to have a new coach in place before January.
Yeah, yes, indeed. My friend, that's all the time we have. And I know that because he was hiding his eyes behind his dark glasses, it was difficult for you to read the body language, good strategy on his part, and choosing his words very, very carefully and weighing them. Thank you very much, Leighton, for our job well done. We'll talk again.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Right. So both of you have, I take, a perspective on her statement. But I thought her statement was brilliant from the perspective of, if I was her PR consultant, that's exactly the kind of statement I would send, because guess what? I said nothing to color the status of my relationship with the club in any way. I spoke about what I am going to do. If you notice, there was nothing in the statement about her past. It's just where she's going. She said, no, I'm training by myself. So she's talking about no. And secondly, I will be putting together my team as I go forward. To go forward. So she's speaking about now and forward. She would have been advised, don't say anything about the club here. So she's not said anything good or bad. So in the event that she has to go back, there can't be a relationship to repair from the public relations perspective, because she said nothing to denigrate the club. And it's not as if she has to say thank you to the club for what you've done for me. What the club has done for her is a matter of record. It's history. It's recorded. She can never divorce herself from MVP because MVP made her. Everybody knows that. So I think that on balance, if I was advising her, I would say, look, don't say anything about the club to draw the club into this thing directly one way or the other. Make it a rather anodyne statement. Talk about now, what you're doing now, what you're doing in the future, and move on from there.
But George, I tend to believe sometimes that no answer or no comment is a comment. And in this case, that's the reason why a lot of people are having this discussion. And if I was her advisor, all I would have said to her is say thank you to MVP and then continue. So you don't get bashed for being ungrateful.
No, but
because in this case, it comes across as you're being really ungrateful.
But you're ungrateful when you don't appreciate and acknowledge what those who have helped you to achieve great things. You don't acknowledge that achievement. She's thanked MVP countless times. She said Stephen Francis is a G. She said she's given all the compliments to Stephen Francis and MVP in the past. It's just in this moment of acrimony. And I'm thinking of this thing from the perspective of the PR practitioner. I would have advised her to craft that statement exactly the way she did, because I'm leaving the club out of it. I'm saying nothing good or bad about the club. I'm saying nothing at all. I'm just talking about me. Because remember, at the end of the day, this wasn't a statement about MVP. This was a statement about Elaine Thomspon-Herah. What is Elaine Thomspon-Herah doing now? Where is Elaine Thomspon-Herah going in the future? That's exactly what she answered. The fact is, nothing stops her from sending a press release or making any statement anywhere else and saying, yeah, I want to thank MVP for what they did for me. No, I'm taking charge of my future. And the concerns that have arisen now would disappear. So it's easy to remove. So I'm saying there's nothing wrong with it from that perspective.
I want to know what Lance thinks.
I understand the point you're making, George, that from her perspective and where she sits now, there's nothing wrong with the statement. But the point I was making was that the statement by itself highlights the fact that the breakup has been acrimonious.
Yeah.
So I'm not criticizing her statement. I'm not saying she should have said thanks to MVP. I am saying her statement makes it very clear to everyone that her breakup with MVP has been acrimonious. Because if it was not acrimonious, she would have flavored it in a different way.
Lance, you just said it. Breakup. When is a breakup ever acrimonious? It's not a parting of ways, we can throw euphemisms around. We are men and women of language. We know how to use language. We know how to manipulate language. So I'm holding you up what you said.
There are breakups that are more acrimonious than others.
No, but every breakup has at its heart acrimony. Every single one. So it's a breakup. So I'm saying, we all know that the relationship was fractured and that the relationship broke up. That's fine. So there was acrimony on both sides. MVP feels that she shouldn't have raised the issues that caused the breakup. She feels that MVP perhaps shouldn't have negotiated in the way that they did to cause the breakup. They've broken up. In a breakup, you know that sometimes language is used, language is thrown around that damages the relationship down the road. I'm saying, look at the bigger picture. I think the slate is clear. In the event she wants to return, and I don't know if she wants to return, if she will return someday. As Stephen Francis said, almost everybody has returned.
Well, the way it ended, I don't think it...
So I'm saying, she said nothing to disparage MVP, and in the past, she has said everything to praise MVP and Francis himself. So it's not as if MVP is in any doubt whether or not Elaine Thomspon-Herah is thankful for what he did for her, or Stephen Francis is in any doubt. He knows what he did for her. She's acknowledged it publicly. She just didn't do it in this statement because this statement was about her.
Yeah, but there are a lot of things in this current story that we still don't know, because when the MVP were asked to respond to the fact that Elaine Thomspon-Herah denied the story, they said they were still talking to her. So it is obvious that a lot has happened in the relationship between the two parties that at this moment we still don't know. So I guess we will follow this story very closely, because Thompson-Herah's projection into the 2022 season is something I think everyone will be putting under the microscope. Still to come on today's show, a review of day 1 action from match day 3 in the UEFA Champions League football, where we had goals galore. And remember, the NBA returns tonight. 2 matches on the home of champions, the reigning champions, Milwaukee Bucks, opening against the Brooklyn Nets at 6:30, 7:30 Eastern Caribbean time. Then at 9 o'clock, 10 ECT, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers take on the Golden State Warriors, all on SportsMax.